Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Dear Masuma, the show that tries to answer your queries and concerns. My name is Sana Araji and I'm with Masuma Ja'far. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
How are you doing today?
Alhamdulillah. How about yourself?
Alhamdulillah. So we're going to continue answering some of our viewers' questions and inshallah you can help address some of these concerns. So we'll just go straight to it. Okay. Dear Masuma, I have a really wonderful friend. She's amazing. And whenever I see her, I feel encouraged religiously and I leave with a sense of spiritual upliftment. She is my best friend material. There is no one like her. I recently have found out that she is considering a man in the community who has a terrible reputation. I feel so shallow to say this, but his conduct and behavior is not transparent and I'm worried she will ruin her life. I recently found out information about this potential future husband and it's not good news. Is it sinful if I give this information to my friend? I don't want to ruin this man's opportunity and I'm always thinking about karma, so I need some help as to what I should do next. Please do advise. Loving the show, mashallah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First and foremost, you're actually encouraged to tell people the truth when it comes to marriage and business. So if someone specifically asks you about a potential spouse, then you're told that you should tell them.
Okay.
Tell them what you know, not what you've heard. There's a difference. So I would ask this person, is it things that she actually knows or is it things that she's heard about this person? And how long ago did this person do whatever they're accused of doing? Is there a chance that they may have asked for forgiveness and changed and become a different person? So there's lots of things to take into consideration. But I think the first thing is that it's not ghibah when you tell someone about something that is to do with a potential spouse or a business partner. The second thing is to ensure that she knows what she's saying is actual truth and not gossip. And if she's not sure, then maybe just sort of say something very general like, just make sure that you do your research on this person because, you know, people have been saying a lot of things. So just make sure you've done your research. So that way you're not actually saying that there is some, you know, that this is what's wrong with them, but there may be something and she needs to do her research.
Okay.
The other thing I would actually ask is, she said, she uses this word religious. She feels religious or this person is religious. I'd ask her what that means, because I feel like we use this word religious and we classify people religious and not religious. But what does that actually mean? I think as long as a person is not openly committing a sin, then it's their journey with God and we have no right to classify them as religious or non-religious.
Okay, yeah.
So I think that there's a lot that she needs to think about. And also maybe sort of reflect on what maybe she's not realizing, but at the back of her mind, because she's got a relationship with this friend of hers, maybe she thinks things will change when this person gets married. And how much is that influencing her as well?
Okay. And what if, for example, if she was to tell her friend, a lot of the time in some situations what you find is that it could cause problems between the actual friendships. So how would someone address this matter and tell their friend? In what way? How would they do that?
Again, I think it's information that you will pass on, and then what they do with that information is up to them. So, for example, if I say to you that, you know, you're thinking of marrying so-and-so, I know that this person has done this, or I've heard a lot, I don't know how true that is, but I encourage you to do your research. And then I leave it up to you to decide what you want to do with that information. If I'm expecting you to handle it a specific way, then that's not right, because it's your decision. You're the person who's getting married, not me. I'm just, as a friend, just telling you what I know.
Okay.
So I think if I do it from that perspective and I do it from a place of love, then the other person won't take it badly, because you're not putting that person down. You're just saying, just do some research. Or this is what I've heard. It may not be true anymore. Again, do your research, or actually ask the guy himself, you know. So, I mean, all of us have baggage. All of us have done things that we're not proud of. All of us have, have committed sins. And I think, if we were to be held liable for that for the rest of our lives, then none of us would be, considered as religious or decent people. So it's about recognizing that that person may have asked for forgiveness, may have learnt from their mistake, may have grown from that mistake. And again, that's that person, that's her friend's decision to ask those questions and decide whether she wants to move on with that relationship. I think the other thing is as well, a lot of the times when it comes to marriage, we feel like we sort of take God out of the picture to a certain extent. We think, I have to decide and I have to make sure. And it's like she's thinking, oh, if I don't tell her, what if she makes a mistake? I truly believe that if you're going into this marriage with the right niyyah in order to move closer to God, and you're doing everything in the halal way, then I truly believe God puts that person in your life. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have an easy marriage. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a happy marriage. And I don't think there is such a thing as an easy or a happy marriage ever. I think what it will mean is that you will grow from this marriage. And that's what marriage is supposed to be there for growth. So I truly believe that if we do it in the halal way, it's very difficult for us to know this person inside out. We're not going to know all their faults, all their baggages, and we're not going to know everything about them. And a lot of people will say, well, I wouldn't pick a friend the way we're expected to pick spouses. But when you're picking a friend, you're sort of, again, you're spending more time with them, you're doing this, you're doing that. Whereas with a spouse, I think there's that concept of there is a barrier there, which is the hijab barrier. And you have to take that into account. And you have to trust that God's going to send the right person to you. And then when you're going through the tough times, you know that there's a purpose behind that tough time. It's for you to grow. It's for you to get closer to God. So I truly believe that God actually has a part to play in bringing people together.
Yeah, no, of course. And obviously, we don't know how much of it is true. It could be just gossip, like you said before. So I think they would have to be 100% sure before they would actually go and tell their friend this, because it could cause some really bad implications.
Yeah, no, for sure. And if you're going to say something specific, then yes, you have to be 100% sure.
Okay.
But if you have just heard things, then I still would maybe just say, just make sure you do your research, because I have heard things, but I don't want to share what I've heard because I'm not 100% sure that it's accurate.
Right, okay.
So actually even saying something like that is not wrong, because you're just saying to them, okay, look, there may be something there. Just make sure you do your research.
And what if, even if you said it in that way to your friend, if they took it in the wrong way, or they thought that, they were just trying to cause fitna, like how would the other person deal with that?
You can't predict what the other person is going to do. You can't, you can't behave in a certain way just because someone else you're worried about how the other person's going to take it or how the other person's going to behave. I think you have to do it according to what's expected of you from God. So if you're going into it, and again, I asked this person to reflect on why, what is it that they need to tell their friend and why they're telling their friend. If there is maybe a little bit of, if she gets married, then I might lose my friendship with her, then that's the wrong intention. If it's, she's so amazing, I want the most perfect person for her, again, that's the wrong intention, because there is no such thing as perfection. And it's not about you wanting something for someone else. It's about God deciding who this person needs. So if you really want someone who's going to be someone who helps her on her journey, then do dua for her.
Yeah.
But if your intention is, you know what, I've heard certain things, I'm not sure how true they are, but at the same time, I need to let her know. I wouldn't specifically go into specifics of what that person's done, because you don't know how true they are. And I'd actually tell that to my friend. I'd say, look, I'm not going to tell you what I've heard because I don't know how true it is, and I don't want to say something that's not true. But I have heard certain things, and they may be wrong. They may be totally made up. They may be just gossip. But there may be some truth in it. So I'm just letting you know so that you can do your research. And I'm only telling you because that's what I would want you to do for me.
Okay. And so, for example, if the friend who is supposed to be getting married to this individual, how would what would be the appropriate way of trying to find the right spouse? So to ensure that you do find the right spouse, like not having sort of bad reputations, like what would be the way for someone to do that?
Okay, so first of all, the niyyah has to be correct.
Okay.
So I think we need to move past this Disney idea of marriage where you live happily ever after. Your spouse isn't there to make you happy. Your spouse, you get married in order to move closer to Allah. That's one of the tools that God has given you in order to get closer to Him.
Mm-hmm.
So through marriage, you experience a different kind of love for your spouse. Inshallah, you get pregnant, you experience a different kind of love for your children, and then inshallah for your grandchildren. And when you experience all these different intensities of love, then it makes you realize that if you can love the creation that much, imagine how much you could love the creator of that creation. So that's one of the beautiful things about marriage. The other thing is like it takes you out of your comfort zone. It makes you less selfish. It breaks the ego. So all of these things are things that we require in order to move closer to God. So if I am getting married with that sort of intention that, inshallah, me and my spouse together, me individually, will move closer to God.
Okay.
Then that's the first step. The second step is actually to pray for a spouse who will help you to get closer to God. A lot of the times when we pray for things, we cut our dua. So we cut it at the thing that we want. So for example, if I want to get married, I'll say, Ya Allah, please let me get married. Please let me find a spouse. Please let me get married. Now, what I've done is I've made marriage or the spouse my end goal. Whereas Allah should always be my end goal. So the dua should continue, Ya Allah, let me get married so that I become closer to you. Ya Allah, let me find a spouse which will help me get closer to you. So the end goal should always be God. I shouldn't cut my dua. And that way, the dua is correct. And secondly, it reinforces within myself what my end goal is always. Thirdly, then actually, whatever opportunity I'm given, actually take that opportunity. So whenever a proposal comes, actually, evaluate that proposal properly. Don't just cast it aside because you're not ready. A lot of times, people will say, I'm not ready until I qualify, or, until I've done this, or until I've done that, I'm not going to think of it. God may have a different idea. Again, we plan and Allah plans, and Allah is the best of planners. So actually never not consider a proposal. In fact, we have a hadith that says that if a proposal comes and the person has deen, religion, and akhlaq, then you should consider it.
Right, okay.
So it's about considering it. And again, this hadith tells us what we should be looking for, which is religion and akhlaq.
Right.
Not money and not status and not looks. And all of these things may be important, but they should be secondary.
Okay.
So obviously I have to find my spouse good looking. Maybe money is something that's important to me, and I have to be true to myself. Okay, so they should be secondary. They shouldn't be the primary thing that I'm looking at. The primary thing I should be looking at is someone who has religion and akhlaq. If they don't have religion and akhlaq, then I don't want to meet that person, even if they may be the most gorgeous person or the most the most richest person, or the so also taking that into account, and then actually relying on Allah. And sort of when you're meeting that person, ask Allah to guide you. A lot of people who are married will tell you they just knew. They knew this person was right for them. And you ask them, but why? I remember actually before I got married, when I was asking my friends, it's like who were married, and I'd say to them, how did you know? I just did. And I was like, how does that make sense? How do you know?
Yeah.
And it's true, you just know. And I truly believe that's Allah guiding you. And it's actually sort of recognizing I really wouldn't know who the person is that's going to help me get closer to God, except unless God tells me that. So it's realizing that God is a huge part to play in this. It's like I have to rely on Him and ask Him to guide me to who is going to help me to get closer to Him.
Yeah, and going back to the point where you were making about not saying wait until I finish studying or till I finish this. But what if a woman knows that perhaps potential spouses will not allow her to continue on with her studies and things like that? So
those are conversations that she needs to have. Again, don't just disregard it. Actually have that conversation. Say, look, I'm studying at the moment. How do you feel about me continuing with my studies?
Okay.
And if they turn around and say, no, we want you not to, then of course that's one, you know, you can say, well, no, that doesn't work for me.
So that will be okay for then,
Yeah,
for
for
that
sure.
person to obviously, well, say, well, in fact, I do want to continue. So
Yeah.
if you can't take that, then I'm going to have to wait till I finish.
Yeah,
in
no,
a way.
I think that there are certain things that you want, which
Okay.
you've decided that you want, and which are halal, and there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with it. And I think, you know, education is important.
Mm.
I think, you know, for certain people, and like I said, 'cause for some people, they want to live on their own. So again, when you're having those conversations, actually say to them, you know, is there a possibility that we will live on our own?
Okay.
And you have that right to ask.
Mm.
So but it's when you sort of say, no, I'm not even going to consider this because you know what, I'm still studying. That's what I think is wrong, because
Okay.
you're actually throwing it away without even considering it. Maybe this person was the one that was sent to you by God. And
Okay.
and also, you know, you can have a long, in quotes, engagement period where the nikah has been recited. So you're actually married according to Islam, but you're not living together. So you may think, okay, you know what, I feel like I'm too young at the moment to take on the responsibilities for marriage. So you know, you say, okay, fine, you know what, but I think this person's the right person. So have the nikah recited, knowing that this is a lifetime commitment. It's not an engagement. It's not a muta where, you know, you're going to come out of it. It's actually a nikah where you're committed to this person for the rest of your life. You're just not living together because you feel like you have, you know, you're not mature enough. You feel like you have too much on your plate at the moment, you know, and it's something that you've both decided.
Okay. Yeah.
And you know, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But I think at that time, maybe the parents need to sort of realize that the boy and girl have had their nikah recited, so they are married. And so it's very difficult for a parent to sort of step back a little bit and allow them that freedom which comes with marriage, where they can then spend time together and go out together and everything.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
So, you know, there's lots of things that need to be discussed. But what I'm saying is the discussions should happen. You shouldn't just wipe it away with that, no, I'm not ready at the moment, so I'm not even going to consider it. I think that's where the problems arise.
Yeah, definitely. And going back to this specific question, now I know we're talking about the friend who is kind of aware of some rumours that she says that she wants to put forward to her friend, but shouldn't the parents kind of know a bit more about the spouse that is going to be marrying their child? So if there was any concerns, shouldn't it have flagged up with the parents?
Yeah, and that's where the research comes in, right? So you start asking different people. I think a lot of the times it's probably better for sort of maybe if this person's got a brother, for him to ask around, you know, his friends and things, because a lot of people are very clever at looking good in front of the adults. A lot of people will go and ask the Maulana or, you know, the resident alim or something. Of course you're going to look good in front of him. You're not going to show your true colours in front of, you know, the alim or the Maulana or whatever. It's like, but you're going to show a little bit of your true colours in front of your friends. So it's asking around in a way that you're actually asking those who know this person, rather than adults or scholars, if that makes sense. You know, I remember when my daughter had a proposal and my husband said, oh, he's a really good guy. And I was like, of course he is in your eyes, because everyone's a good guy in your eyes. Everyone looks good because, you know, you're a Maulana, so everyone's going to act amazing in front of you.
Of course, yeah.
And I actually said to my son, no, you go and find out from your friends and, you know, his friends what this guy's like, because that's going to show his true colours.
Yeah, it's kind of catching them at the moments where they're not like at their best, so that you can see.
Or not putting
Obviously.
on a facade because they, you know, that's how they're supposed to behave, sort of thing. Looking at their Facebook profile, and again, if you see him, you know, with pictures, and he's comfortable with putting up pictures with him with lots of different girls and his arms around the girls and everything, that should flag up, you know, sort of red flags. Sort of, it's like there's a problem here. How can he be okay with that? You know, what sort of profile picture does he have? What sort of groups has he attached himself to? And again, the same with the girl. It's like, I think now with social media, it's so much easier to find out about a person, because, and you know, it sort of makes you realize, okay, what groups have they attached themselves to? What are their likes? What are their dislikes? What are, you know, who are their friends? All of these things come into it.
Yeah, and even to be honest, with social media, I feel like that is also quite fake as well. So a lot of the things that they put up on there could just be for show, but not necessarily who they are as a person.
That's true, and I think again, you need to have a discussion. But it's I think a lot of the times people put up things on social media which actually shows a true essence of themselves. So even if they're false, it's like, the way that they put up their photos, how vain are they? The fact that they're constantly putting up photos of themselves, or, if they put up photos of their friends, it's like, how do they dress? Where are they? What sort of place are they at? Their work colleagues, how close are they standing with their work colleagues if they're the opposite gender? Little things like that, which, you may not think of, actually gives away a lot.
So it's kind of like a full investigation, really, isn't it? Like a detective investigation that you have to kind of take out on that individual person. But what would be the limit of that? Like, I mean, how much could you go into investigating someone?
I think the investigation should be quite thorough, but I think the person has a right to answer those questions. So rather than, unless it's something that's obviously wrong. So, for example, if this person's put a picture of themselves with alcohol or something, there's no way you can answer that. It's like, you can't be okay with something like that. Or if they put themselves, dancing in a nightclub or something. Again, the fact that they may have committed a sin, but the fact that they're putting it out there shows that they're really not bothered about the sin that they've committed. And that's a problem.
Okay.
But if there's certain things that they've put up and they may not have thought of it, or they may not have even realized, maybe it's something in the background and they've not realized that that's in the background. So again, having that conversation with that person and actually saying to them, but I was looking at your Facebook profile and this is what I came up with. Are you okay with that? Just asking something like, are you okay with that picture? Or, you said you belong to this group. I don't understand because that group is so not what a Muslim should belong to. Things like that. So actually having that conversation and allowing that person to answer, I think, is important.
Okay, so getting their side of the story and a bit more of an understanding of where they sit as well.
And again, what questions you ask. I think a lot of the time, especially girls, because they save themselves, they expect the guy to have saved himself as well. And again, if you ask your prospective spouse to be, if you say to them, have you ever been with someone? Now, either they say yes and you walk away from that meeting, or they say no and they're lying to you, or they may not have been. So it's like, I don't see the purpose of that question.
Okay.
Because if they're going to be truthful to you, if they have been with someone and they're being truthful to you, you're going to walk away from it. And if they lie to you, then and it comes out later on, then you actually started on a lie.
So that's quite a difficult question to kind of ask, isn't it? Because
I don't see the purpose of it. Because if it's something that they've done, and they've done it in a halal way, it really shouldn't make a difference to you.
Okay.
If it's something that they've done in a haram way, and they've learnt from it, and it's not something that they feel proud of, it's not something that they should then be telling you anyway, because Allah says not to tell your sins to others.
Right,
so inshallah, they've asked for forgiveness, they've righted the wrong as much as they can. Then God has told them not to tell you, so they really can't tell you. So what's the purpose of the question? So I think it's again thinking about what is it that you're trying to serve by asking certain questions is important as well.
Okay, inshallah. I think, inshallah, hopefully that's helped the viewer. I think it's quite a common situation that a lot of people do tend to go through regarding marriage. It's quite a hot topic, isn't it? But thank you so much, Masuma. And inshallah, hopefully you've been able to benefit from the advice from Masuma. And again, do send in any of your queries and concerns to us, whatever they may be, and we will put them forward to Sister Masuma for you. Inshallah, we'll see you at another episode of Dear Masuma. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.